Antonblast is the puzzle platformer released in late 2024, centered around the adventure of our two protagonists, Dynamite Anton and Dynamite Annie, as they steal back their spirits and banish Satan from their local casino, Brulo's. Today, I will be going over how to smash, grab, and make a break for it for those who aren't so familiar with the gaming industry. Haven't even picked up a controller before? This guide is perfect for your first tour of the game. More familiar with games, but just wants to see what Antonblast has to offer? Then the next video released, the Antonblast Intermediate Guide, might be a bit more your pace. Without further ado, this is the Antonblast Beginner's Guide. Before we can even enter the game, though, it's best we familiarize ourselves with the way you play Antonblast. Since it's best experienced and easiest played on a controller, this guide will center around the controller playstyle for Antonblast. Here is what you should be looking for when deciding on which controller. It should have the big X in the middle to signify it is an Xbox controller. If your device supports Bluetooth, then you may choose one that connects wirelessly, but if not, it's best to choose one that connects via USB. Holding the controller with the big X, which is known as the home button, facing you, the four buttons on the right will be our letter buttons. Whatever letter on their face being the letter they correspond to. The X button has an X on it, the A button has an A on it, B button a B, and Y button a Y. In most games, these buttons are action buttons or jump buttons, but we'll go over what each one does later. The two circular joysticks will simply be called sticks. These are named where they lie in reference to the home button. The left stick on the left and the right stick on the right. Most games use them for selection and movement as well as aiming, but this game does not use the right stick at all. Below the left stick is a cross symbol which has four pressable directions. This is known as the directional pad, or D-pad for short. Its use varies for each game, but again we'll go over what it does later. Just below the home button you will see two buttons, one that has three lines and the other with two squares. The one on the right is known as the menu or start button, while the one on the left is known as select. Finally, at the top, there are four buttons that can be viewed. The front two are known as bumpers and named the same way the joysticks are named. Left bumper on the left, right bumper on the right, sometimes being shortened down to LB and RB respectively. The ones in the back are called triggers, named the same as bumpers with the left trigger on the left and right trigger on the right, also able to be shortened, this time down to LT and RT. Now that we know how to use a controller, it's best we learn what each part of the controller will be doing for us. First comes the left stick and D-pad, which will allow us to move our character around, either Dynamite Anton or Dynamite Annie. On land, they can move left and right by pushing the stick in that direction or by pressing that cardinal direction on the D-pad. They can make our character crouch by pushing downwards, make our character climb up and down ladders by moving up and by pushing up and down, as well as enter doors if pressed upwards. Do note that if you crouch on a surface that is sloped enough, your character will enter a rolling animation, which you cannot stop unless you hit against a wall in the direction that you're rolling. In water, your movement with the stick and D-pad can be pushed in any direction to swim in that direction. Moving on to the buttons, first, the A button will be used when selecting options in the menu as well as to make your character jump. The X button will be used to attack, pressing it on the ground causing you to swing your hammer to send yourself forward with a little extra speed. Pressing in the air causes you to rebound off the ground higher than a normal jump. When pressed in the water, it will also cause you to boost, this time in the direction of your character's movement. The Y button will be used in order to check your health, collected chips, and collectibles. The B button will be used on the ground to make your character slide, and in the air to slam into the ground, letting you into any dumpsters which act like doors that you need to enter from above. The Start button will be used to open up the options menu, where you can change volume, screen resolution, etc. Finally, the last button is LT, which is used do that. For simplicity, we will only see it as a somewhat gag move, but in the intermediate guide, we will go further into explaining the practicality of this screen. For now, let's go back to one of the previous points and see what the average screen of Antonblast looks like. On screen, there's quite a lot of information. For now though, let's focus on the important pieces of info. In the top left, you can see the cards representing your character's health, which is how many times you can take damage before you restart to the last checkpoint. If the card is colored in, then you have health. If the card is grayed out and shows a heartbreak, it means you've lost that health. Later we will go over 3 of the ways that you can restore your health. In the top right, you can see your chip count. Since our base of operations is a casino, poker chips are the currency we'll be using. Outside of just finding them all over the stage, some objects may also contain these. For now, just know that the more chips you have, the better. Finally, in the bottom right, you will see a boost meter, which is another mechanic we'll go over in the intermediate guide. All the previously mentioned elements cannot be interacted with. The elements of the game that your character can interact with, though, can be separated into 2 different categories: objects/blocks and enemies. This first section will go over the objects that you can interact with. First up are what can be called light breakable objects. These come in the form of wooden crates, shipping containers, and checkpoints, as well as health crates. When hit with your hammer, they give no resistance and can even be slid right through when pressing B. They also drop some chips upon breaking. Or in the case of a health crate, when broken, if you have any health missing, they will heal you, but if you don't have anything missing, then they will just simply give you chips. Note that the small breakables will even break if you jump on them, causing a little bounce after you land. After light breakables are medium breakable objects. Colorful bricks that can interrupt your hammer swing but still be broken, also giving you chips upon destruction. Unlike light breakables, medium breakables can be stood on in the air and even bounced off of by pressing X in the air, just as you would off the ground. Finally, there are heavy breakable objects. Objects that Anton and Annie cannot destroy without a little assistance, either by doing a downward slam from a decent height, or by utilizing one of the transformations which we will discuss in the intermediate guide. Outside of breakable objects, there are actually 2 types of objects that you can interact with that cannot be broken. These are layer jumping blocks, which allow you to switch between the foreground and background by pressing up on your preferred movement, as well as the A button, and slot machines, which shuffles its display between chips of different colors, each associated with different values, as well as a picture of a heartbeat, the exact one from the health crate. Whichever one you hit with your hammer will be the type of collectible the slot machine gives out before destroying itself, making this the second way for you to restore health. Note that there are 3 last sets of unbreakable objects. One of them called card blocks, which either have a spade, club, or diamond or heart on them, just like a deck of cards would. These can be bypassed by pressing a switch with that suit, causing all blocks of that symbol to explode. Another one known as dice blocks, which each have a primary color of white pips or vice versa. These blocks can either be solid and not pass through, or simply outlines which you can go straight through. To switch the state of these blocks, you must find the dice block corresponding to its color and hit it with your hammer, making all the solid ones outlines and all the outlines solid. The last set of blocks are what we can call Brouleau bricks, which will be explained in the last section of this video. Outside of objects, there will also be many enemies in your path to stop you. Without going over all the enemies in the game, do quickly note that a common theme will be spikes located on them in some way. To avoid taking damage, simply stick to dodging them until they're in a vulnerable state, striking with your hammer from the front or back if safe, and remember, you may always strike from above if they don't have anything protecting them. Before going over the last section of how to actually navigate a level of Antonblast, we will quickly go over what the chips are even used for in the first place. As previously mentioned, Satan is clogging up Brulo's casino, leaving him to trust the Dynamite duo in getting him and his minions out of the establishment. In return, Brulo lets them use the casino as their base of operations, selling them a little extra health to take into the levels, fun gag items to take with you on the adventure, as well as different cosmetics known as spray cans and even music to be played called tapes. As you might have noticed, Anton and Annie don't always look the same color in all the footage I've shown off. This is because of the spray cans, which give the characters different reskins and recolors, which you can change at this location in the casino. While we're here, it's also important to note that you can switch who you're playing as, either Anton or Annie, at this room next to the place you exchange your spray cans. To wrap up this guide, I will be taking you through the navigation of a typical level of Antonblast. While exploring best you can, take note of some of the Brulo bricks grayed out which can be walked through, while others are solid and cannot be passed through. At some point during the level, you will encounter a bottle or glass of alcohol with wings known as one of the spirits. These collectibles are necessary for completion, so touching it will cause it to follow behind you for the rest of the level. You will know you have reached the end of a level whenever you see this timer sitting in the middle of the room, or your character might even be thrown on it. This timer activates a sequence known as Happy Hour, which places a clock at the top of your screen counting down until you get a game over and have to start from the last checkpoint, or even the beginning of Happy Hour sequence. In order to beat the Happy Hour, you must return to the beginning of the stage and enter the door you came out from in the first place. In traversing the same path, however, the Brulo bricks will have their state switched, allowing you to get through some shortcuts as well as some old paths to be blocked off. Once you get back to the door with your spirit, it's time to say goodbye to the level to unlock more of Brulo's casino and keep getting back at Satan. Thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed this guide and wish to know more in-depth knowledge, feel free to check out the intermediate guide posted on the channel. Any questions you might have, feel free to leave them in the comments below. I hope you all have a wonderful evening, day, or night. Thank you.